hello, and welcome to You Are the Question, the show again, where we talk about learning all aspects thereof, natural law and the world and everything around us. A lot of people have been liking these episodes lately, so I want to say thank you to everybody who's been staying tuned for everything. It's pretty awesome to see everybody creating more conversation around a lot of these universal ideas that a lot of people may not know or a lot of people may not have considered. So, what is this show? Well, you are the question. Therefore, I am also the question. We, by our actions that are to be at question, help determine the world we live in. So, by questioning ourselves, our condition, our actions, we question how we can help make the world a better place together. This is a show where we seek answers present for us all by nature. The world depends on you. Where you stand, you are the question. And the objective of the show is to teach others one-on-one natural law directly and practically, utilizing coaching techniques such as questions, recitation, and helping guests come to their own conclusions. It becomes a hands-on learning experience for everyone so that folks may even help teach others this knowledge. Each show is about 1 hour and each guest is limited to about 3 shows, but because this guest is my sister, this is our 3rd episode, we're going to go on even more episodes because this being our first guest, we're going to go way in depth with each subject. That's why a lot of people have been loving these recent episodes. And you can see more about that at nita.one/learn, as you see on the screen on the top left-hand corner. Some ways of teaching this knowledge of natural law is more in-depth. However, as different guests are introduced, new ways of teaching will come with it. The difference is often dependent on where an individual currently is with their learning. This is live from Twitch on Coconut TV. That's twitch.tv/KooKoonutTV, KOOKOONUT. Live comments will be read and may or may not be discussed. Through exploring all the many ideas we talk about, our knowledge of natural law becomes more defined and thorough, therefore understood. And just a quick disclaimer, I do not expect people or any one guest to know the full nature thereof statism by the end of each show. I am your host, Cory, Edmund, Endrulat, and I'm here with my guest yet again, and I honor her presence here. Her name is KrystalsLife, my sister, and her Twitch is twitch.tv/KrystalsLife. Here she is.
Hello. Hi.
There you go.
Hi. How are we doing today? Hi, Cory. Thank you again for having me on for not only once, but twice. But we're back at it again for the 3rd time.
There we
I'm
go.
excited.
Yes. So, just to quickly recap on what we talked about last time, we talked about a lot of the requirements when it comes to knowledge, right? How do we learn? We went over the teachability bell curve. That was the first episode you and I did where we talked about, some people are closed-minded, others are more open-minded to information. And then we looked at how does knowledge, fit into this. So we're learning something. What are we learning? We're learning knowledge. And what is that knowledge doing to our world? We're going to get even more in depth with that as we go on. So here, let's look at the teachability bell curve again, just to sort of refresh on what we previously went over. Here's the teachability bell curve. You see the best position to learn is not being too open-minded, but also not being too closed-minded. It is still being critically thinking, but not overly analyzing every little detail. So then as we went on, we talked about our sources of information being very important. So where are we getting our information? You concluded saying, nature is very important. Here we have some very ideologies that people tend to perhaps stick themselves into, right? It could be money, it could be politics, all these things affect our perception of the world, all these things affect our knowledge of the world. We came to these conclusions together on all the episodes. So then we found out there's requirements to even attaining the knowledge that we want to see in the world. And so although we say we want certain things, we must actually do the things that we know to be is going to help manifest the world we want to live in. So that's the importance of knowledge, and it can't be ignored, right? That's where we got the idea of ignorance. We don't want to be ignorant of something that is present. If I have the key to unlock the door, I want to use the key to unlock the door. Then we got into knowledge and into how it's a pyramid system. where those at the top or the few may have knowledge that the others may not, and that is for the very purpose of keeping knowledge away from others, for the very purpose that knowledge is power. So therefore they keep their power differential, which means they keep themselves atop the pyramid, while those are at the bottom, they're in the bricks of darkness, they don't have the knowledge. And so that's where we are today. Is understanding, well, more of the role of knowledge. And we went over how, much of society isn't maybe paying attention to knowledge. There's a lot of people who might just be following orders, not really applying the knowledge into their own brains, having their own conscience of making decisions. And so we asked the big question, why is all this happening? And that's why today we're going to get into problem solving. Problem
Oh,
solving.
geez. Oh,
And
geez. Is
kind
there a
of,
test for this?
yeah, well, we will do some things like that. I figured to sort of refresh and go over everything like that I sort of just said as well, because I want to make sure
Yeah.
that you also comprehend it through time. It sometimes may take a bit to comprehend. I mentioned like just a bunch of things already just in the past like 2 to 3 minutes that we went over for hours worth of time. And problem solving is important because now that we understand the role of knowledge, we understand the role of ignorance and all the other stuff that traps people's brains. How could we move forward in the world, actually achieving what we desire? Is the next question, right? That we have to ask ourselves. So, when you hear problem solving, what do you think about problem solving, and maybe how does that relate to the question why that we established before?
Well, I mean, you have to have a foundation. I think you need to have a solid foundation before acquiring this problem. Seek out what options you have, um, what options you are given, and kind of start from the ground up. See what is going to be the best outcome, the smartest outcome, the most effective outcome, something that's going to benefit all parties, I guess you can say. But I mean, it depends. It's very. I mean, you can't just ask me like, unless it's like in the scenario. I think it all really depends in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we
Um,
can we can maybe do that then. If you want it more of a scenario, like last time we came up with several different analogies. Like I mentioned, the one with the door and the lock and the key, right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So perhaps that is problem solving within itself. Is like figuring out,
Sure.
well, how do I unlock the door? So
Yeah.
let's break it down like this then. Instead, what are the steps in how we solve a problem? And based on everything that we learned, how can we make this into problem solving? What are the steps, right? So we went into learning and acquiring knowledge. Um,
Oh, and then
how do we solve a problem?
okay. I mean, educate, translate, and seek out other options. Find out what's best going to work out for the scenario.
Okay,
That's what comes to mind. I don't know.
sure. So translate. What do you mean by translate?
Translate what you are trying to give out into the world. So whether it can be something as simple as just um, transgressioning something like a truth about a specific topic, I guess.
Okay. So you're making it more understandable. Is that what you mean by translate?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah, making it more understandable.
More accessible by more people?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So you're translating it so it's a little easier to understand, a little bit more comprehensible, making it more accessible, giving options, doing
Okay,
the
so maybe
research,
that's how we share the knowledge, right?
share how we share the knowledge, what information are we given already so we can move forward? How did we get that research to move forward? Is it reliable? Is it trustworthy? Um,
So that goes back to our sources of information, right? Looking at where does our information come from. So maybe
yeah.
that's step one is understanding what we have, right? So if I'm in a room with a key and a door, I need to first not only recognize the key is there, but I need to be aware of my surroundings, right? So step one is recognizing that there's a key there, perhaps.
What about where does the key go? Is that like
Well, if you don't
something that,
have the key, you can't think about that, right?
right?
So first action, right? We're trying to put it in order. First action must be recognizing the key is there.
Mhm.
Okay, and then maybe, like you said, once we have the key, we can do what?
Find where it goes and open the door.
Okay. So think about any problem. Do you want to, you think we should change a different analogy? Do you not like that analogy?
Well, I don't understand. Like, okay, you're asking me what problem solving is,
Mm-hmm.
but like, where are we going with this? You know what I mean? Like, I've been giving you a bunch of things, but I just, where are we go? I'm confused. I think we're all over the place, and my head is not directed in one direction anymore.
Okay, so where's your head right now? Go ahead. Just speak freely.
Everywhere. Keys. What are we talking about problem solving? Why is the key the
So
problem solving
let's
idea?
just focus on the question then. So how do we solve a problem? Just think. How do we solve a problem? Like let's say you're doing a math test, right?
Yeah.
This is because most people have done this in school. So I'm going to do something that's more relatable. Um,
Okay.
let's say you're solving a problem that's on the piece of paper. What do you have to do? What's the first step?
Get context clues, read it fully, maybe a couple times, understand what
Mm.
is given to you.
Now, what if you don't understand what the question's asking?
Rip up the piece of paper and throw it at your teacher's face. No. Um, you just do a little power assess. You just see what you can come out of it and try your best to kind of come up with any outcomes that may help you. Any hints or clues, like context clues, like I said.
But can you solve it if you don't understand the question?
Maybe not, because if you don't understand it, then you're not going to get any further. You're not going to get where you want to go.
Well, what if,
And so
yeah,
that's when you can seek for help, and that's when you can learn from this, learn from your questions, learn from your curiosity.
how do you think people make mistakes then when they solve a problem like that?
Other people make mistakes or learn
Yeah.
from their mistakes.
Well, when they're problem solving, let's say they're not actually giving the correct answer. Why did they not give the correct answer?
Um, Maybe they're not understanding it completely, or they're not fully capable. Like they're not fully grasping the concept.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and so maybe let's see, would you agree with this slide? So maybe the first step is to recognize that there's a problem,
Oh, yeah.
right? So
Well, if you can't figure out the problem, then yeah, recognizing that there is a problem there in the first place, and realizing and accepting the fact that you can't
hmm
uh, recognize the problem, then yeah, that makes
yeah.
total sense.
And then you might see it says under there, it says fear-based denial of the problem must first be dealt with and conquered. So would it be bad if I ignored the problem?
It depends what the problem is,
So let's
but
say let's move this out
I
of a
feel like
math test, right?
well, I always say always face your fears and everything head on. Um, and don't let fear hold you back. Try your hardest. Even if you try and you get it wrong, at least you put that effort forward, and at least you can say, "Hey, I didn't give up."
Hmm. Right. So you're giving it your best based on what you know, right? So
Yeah.
so based on our previous knowledge, right? What do we learn about in the past shows? We learned about knowledge and how important it is. So where does knowledge fit into problem solving? When do we apply that knowledge? I know these may sound like pretty simple or lame questions, but
Well,
it's
wouldn't you already like if you have the knowledge, then there's no problem?
okay. Well, maybe it's
I'm
easier
not,
to
I
solve.
don't get it.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
easier
it's
to
easy.
solve. Yeah. So, if I was in denial, right, like as the slide said, if I was in denial of the problem, but I'm not looking at a math question this time. I want to look at a real world situation because that's what we're talking about,
Okay.
right? We're talking
Yep,
about
yep,
natural law is the consequences to our actions.
yeah,
So, what we need to figure out then is how our actions rely with this. So, our actions can cause problems, right? Okay.
yep.
First,
If
recognizing
it's
that is a big
if
deal.
if it's bad actions,
Right. So if we ignore that and say, well, that's not a problem, then we're not going to go about and problem solving it, are we? We're not going to
No,
bother fixing it because we don't see it as a problem. It's only when we
correct.
first see it as a problem that we're like, oh, wait, maybe I should work on this. Maybe I should change it. Maybe I should do
Yeah,
something about it. So
correct.
maybe there's problems in our world that a lot of people are just like maybe not caring about or ignoring, or they actually feel like there's no reason to solve it.
Or that they're afraid to, or they feel like they're too small, that they may not be able to make a difference in that problem, or that they feel like they don't, well, again, don't have the power to do it. But I think fear may be the number one contributor, because if they have that one single ounce of doubt, then they're gonna start questioning themselves, and they're gonna start self-doubting, basically.
So self doubt. See, that's interesting because we can go into self doubt a little bit more in the future. Like, how does it work when we deny ourselves? Not just deny the problem at hand, but deny ourselves and our ability to solve the problem, right?
Right,
Because I can
right.
say there is a problem, but then I could also say, well, maybe I'm just not right. I can't fix it. I'm just weak. I can't do anything. I'm not fit to do it. But
Correct.
now, yeah, now I'm making another problem. I'm making a problem on myself.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're passionate about, succeeding,
Hmm.
then that, sorry, then if you're passionate about succeeding, then the blockage should not be as deep, shouldn't be as hard to knock down,
Hmm.
because you are determined, you are inspired, you're motivated, because you know that you're doing what you are focusing on, you know?
Hmm. Determined to succeed. But perhaps in the situation here where we have to solve a problem, it's not about winning or losing, right? It's about actually fixing the problem. Um, you know, we don't have to view it as win or lose, right? Because everything is just a chain reaction. Everything just happens for a reason. So, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
but I see where you're coming with that. So, would it be bad if I treated the problem but not the root cause of the problem? Maybe this will get you thinking a little differently.
Mm. Uh-huh. Root cause, the root of everything. No, I think that's literally nails it on the head. Is
Hmm.
getting to the root of the problem, the root of the issue. Um, because if you really think about it, in the body, if you're sick, you don't want to, kind of just take something that may, take off the edge a little bit. You want to see what's actually causing the problem. You want to do something that's actually going to benefit your body, feed it what it needs to do, and also flourish within. But reaching from deep down below, you're literally treating the root cause, and then you know that you're targeting the right thing. So when it comes to problem solving, having the same idea, targeting the root issue, the root
Mm-hmm.
cause, the root whatever. Um, yes, yes, yes.
Hmm.
Everything that we just said, yes.
Okay.
I feel like
It's good
the
to
root may be
reassure.
yeah, I think the root may be the best option in this case. Yeah.
Hmm. So perhaps, with our time, discussing these topics, we want to try to find that root cause, right? To maybe most of the problems within society based on our understanding of natural law. Because if natural law can be applied to any situation, because it's a law that governs all actions and consequences, perhaps we
Mhm.
can use it where it is best used, which is dealing with big problems that might be affecting a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
And that could be like mass quantity, and then it's going to be a ripple effect.
hmm,
Yeah.
now you sort of already also answered this, but I wanted to see if there's anything else you wanted to add to this.
Yeah.
What makes problem solving difficult?
Um, Besides fear and having that blockade that kind of
Hmm.
separates you from your potential of solving this problem, um, could be, I guess lack of confidence, I guess, can fall in line. But I feel like that's all within the same bracket. Fear, self confidence, maybe not having the right information, not having enough knowledge, um,
Hmm.
just not caring at all. You're kind of just going with the flow rather than trying to solve the thing. You're kind of just like, all right, I'll let the person next to me handle it. Why do I need to take this responsibility?
Yeah. So maybe that goes back to the idea that you mentioned with like self-denial, right? And denial.
Yeah.
So like we can make probably a distinction between the two, where you degrade yourself or you say, oh, well, the problem is just not important. I shouldn't treat it. But, maybe if we understand the problem, we understand if it actually is a problem. Some people might not even want to invest the time to see, well, is it actually even a problem? And so we're going to look at that, right? What may be affecting the world as a whole? What do you want to think of something maybe what do you think is affecting the world as a whole? Maybe a problem that we have to fix. Maybe a lot of people know it's a problem but don't know how to go about and solving it.
Oh, you want me to come up with an
Yeah.
example?
Yeah. What would you say an example of that in today's society? Something that affects a lot of people, something that a lot of people see as a problem, but don't know how to really fix it. Or
There's so many. Let me just take out the whole encyclopedia that goes outside my door,
just name one.
into my neighborhood. Um, I would say mass control and conformity.
Okay.
Um,
So most
I
people see
just
that as a problem.
the masses taking control of the people, and the people who are not waking up to what's really happening. It's them who I feel sorry for, and the problem is just them not realizing what's in front of them and not doing the research for themselves. Is that a good example? I don't know, because I feel like that's really, really, really broad.
Is that perhaps because you see that as a problem, but other people might not see that as a problem, and that's why you had
Yeah,
to mention it because you feel like it's important based on your knowledge?
yeah,
Okay.
because once once you are an enlightened person, you kind of like educate yourself about what's really happening behind closed doors, and you start educating the people around you, and then you find people
Hmm.
who have the same interests as you literally attract one another.
So,
um
what you're saying is if you are more conscious or you have more knowledge about what is going on around you, you can then identify more problems and thus come up with more solutions and know how to
yeah,
solve problems better.
it's almost as like what you're doing right now with all your movements, with everything that you're doing between this interview, podcasts, all your channels, and all the work that you're doing with everyone, behind the scenes.
Hmm.
You guys see the problem, you guys are seeking out easy but ways that are effective, because you're using the tools that are given in the most efficient way, and it's sending a
Hmm.
message out that people can then send out to other people, and then it's like a ripple effect
Hmm.
of just information, knowledge, education, and hopefully at the end of the day, someone took something from it. And then just like maybe they may not agree with everything that you do, but at least if they listened and they have an open mind and open heart with it, and they're not just completely closing everything out that you say, they may like one little spark, one little flip of the switch in their head that may be like, oh my goodness, wait, this is actually really interesting, is going to start flipping other switches in their brain, and eventually it's going to be a whole ripple effect, and then maybe enlightenment for
Hmm.
them. But I don't know, for like an example that you're trying to have me come up with, um that is a problem that I see as a problem that could be solved, is masks, because I go out into public and it's very sad to see no one's face. You go out and you expect people to smile at you, to at least give you some type of personable
Hmm.
interaction.
Right. So
And I feel like
maybe it's not even the mask itself; it's the fact that our social ability is itself is being somewhat
depleted,
compromised. Yeah.
compromised and depleted. And like it's sad because it has completely changed within the last year.
Hmm. So
And
maybe
it's
maybe the root cause of the mask thing, maybe it's not just masks. It's maybe something deeper, right? It could be something social related because if it's affecting people's social health, maybe the root cause has something to do with social health and not so much
also
the mask.
breathing in CO2 of your own oxygen is not healthy, and so then you wonder why people are going crazy. It's because they're breathing in
Hmm.
their own air and they're not getting enough fresh oxygen to the
Hmm.
brain.
So we
And
noticed
I
like
mean,
three different fronts
there's
of
so many
yeah.
fronts. No, not just three. There's so many. I mean, I'm so concerned about my health. I'm not going to wear a mask. That's like there's so many sides to this, but like I care way too much about myself and my health that I'm not going to be wearing something that blocks my oxygen. Now, my one thing that literally promotes and induces health in the best
Right.
possible way.
And you're not
But
forcing your opinion on others, right?
no, I speak my opinion,
Exactly.
and I hope people listen and maybe, yes, agree to disagree. That's okay. But
Perhaps
like,
having that differing opinion makes it so that way people get those different perspectives that they could use. And let's
oh
say in
yeah,
case somebody is in denial, let's say someone's wearing a mask, right? They have heavy breathing problems, but they're in denial of the fact that that mask might be making it harder for them to breathe because they are convincing themselves that it's good for them to wear for other reasons. Okay, so they're not
yes,
listening to their own body and they are not
yes,
seeing the whole problem. So it's not
the whole
holistic.
picture. Right. It's not, yeah, it's not holistic. It's not whole.
Mm,
It's not digging to the root cause of why you can't breathe. It's a bigger picture. It's a bigger thing. Yeah,
right.
for sure.
So like just even looking at mask, we already noticed there's so many different things we can talk about on just one subject.
Just
So
one subject.
right. So when like let's say we're talking about healing the body, and we're talking about a whole body, right? And there's so many different aspects within the body. So that way when we have to treat a problem, let's say there's one problem in the body, you know, how do we properly treat the whole thing? Well, we have to make a what's the word they call it? It's okay if you don't think about it at this time.
Diagnosis?
Yes, diagnosis. That's right. So, correct. And once we make a diagnosis, what do we want to make a diagnosis of? The
Cause?
Yes, there you go. Look,
Okay.
you just said it. Here's the slide.
Yeah.
Recognize the symptoms are merely the effects of underlying causes. Therefore, instead of simply treating symptoms, make an accurate diagnosis of the causes of the problem.
Yes.
Right. So you said it yourself. There you go. um, but
And it was there. It was there. It just took a little bit because I think I just never like thought of, oh, root cause. It did, I knew it. Like it was in my subconscious. It's just the word didn't come out.
oh no, this isn't a test. I mean, you can use any words you want. There's other ways to portray the same knowledge. You know,
Yeah.
I don't have to use the exact word diagnosis. I mean, these are very particular words. I like these words, but other people might have other ways of describing the same notions. Um, but this is generally perhaps how we may see all problem solving if we actually want to do a holistic problem solving at least is trying to get to the root cause as much as possible, trying to see everything that's happening, not in
Yes.
fear based denial, just getting objectively knowing what the problem is and objectively treating it for what it is. Because what if we find a way to treat it but we're not actually treating the root cause and we're not looking at it objectively for what it is. We have our belief systems in the way saying, well, if I do this, this person's going to think of me wrong, even though they know themselves that this is what they have to do to fix it.
Right. No, of course.
Yeah.
But again, it's all about the knowledge, the tools at hand, who you're surrounded
Mm.
with,
Okay.
uh, the environment, all the
Right.
factors. You really have to consider all of it because I was just at the naturopathic doctor today getting reflexology, which I 10 out of 10 recommend. It's an amazing process. But we were talking about how there's so many broken families and literally there's no family values anymore, and that's why there are so many kids who fall under certain ideologies, is because they're not brought up into a home holistic grounding environment that can actually promote and help them in
Mm.
the most natural way. Everything's kind of more artificial, or the easy way, or the convenient way out,
Right.
or things are given to them. And so it's kind of just like, I don't know where I was going with this, but um it's oh yeah, because it goes with like what tools are given to you, right? And what knowledge you are fed
Yeah.
um
And believe it or not,
at
I
any
see
part of
just by you using your language, I don't know if you noticed, but you said because you literally by just you using your words, you just problem solved. Because you just said because, right? Getting to the cause.
oh, because yeah.
So by saying that,
Interesting.
you first stated the symptom, right? You said
Mhm.
this happened in society, kids or whatever getting detached from the parents because they don't have this grounded upbringing. So you
Yes.
just acknowledged the problem and you did not deny it. You said it just as for what it is, if it's true, that is. Um, And although I would say, yeah, you have probably a lot of knowledge behind that, which is why you understand it, or why you're passionate about it, or why you're so willing to admit it. Some people might
Oh
not
yeah.
want to admit something they're a little unsure about, right?
Yeah.
Some people want to wait and see till they have full knowledge of a subject before they start speaking about it because they don't want to, cause any problems, or they fear what someone's going to think about them or whatever. Um, yeah, anything else you can say?
Well, I was just thinking that like it's kind of like a way of like, oh, I don't give an F anymore because I know that I'm doing right in the world. And okay, I don't know how to like not make this sound like super bad. What I mean by I don't give an F, it's more like I care about more about my health, and I know what's really going on. That when people give me a hard time about, oh, Crystal, why do you only wear clear masks and not a full mask? Or Crystal, why do you not wear a mask here? Or Crystal, why do you not believe in vaccines? Or what, Crystal, why do you believe in this? It's more like I believe because I done my research and I experienced it for myself, or it's I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's I just feel like once you develop a mentality of just like awakening yourself, educating yourself on the right things that are actually happening, you start to be like not rebellious, but like you have more confidence because what am I trying to say? You have more confidence than like the average sheeple, the average person who is just conforming into the saddest possible way because they don't have the strength to I don't know how to say it without like being super mean. You know what I mean? Like how Cory, help me out.
So no, and it's funny you mentioned mentality because we're gonna get into that a lot, and you might notice what we're talking about is very mental, right? Like
Yes.
when it comes to thinking, knowledge, and just even these questions,
Yeah.
you have to question, why are we talking so much about the mind when it comes to
Yeah.
action? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 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 I'm so sorry. And one more thing before I forget, because things evaporate from my brain
Mm-hmm.
so quickly. Um, just say no. The power of the word no. Try it. I feel like people are so afraid to say no to certain things that may like that they know that may be a little bit ooh this is a little weird, you know.
Mm-hmm.
um and so it's I feel like take down your barriers, risk, don't go crazy, don't go, whatever, but I mean just take a few risks and see what happens, challenge yourself and see how you can grow from it. Build that confidence, build that ability that you know that you have the power to control what goes on in and about your body and with your life. Don't let anyone else tell you that you need to control your life or your body when
Power.
you know your body best. Power.
What is power? As we established before.
um is it another like singular word?
What is power? Blah is power. Blank is
uh
power.
um Nature is power.
No.
Mind is power, belief is power,
Okay.
morals is
Knowledge.
uh no
You
knowledge.
were getting it with
Knowledge.
belief and mentality. But again, let's not forget
Dang
the
it.
powerful meaning of knowledge. Like
Knowledge,
when you
yeah.
said, you seem to keep going back to this idea of people need the tools to solve the problem. But if this is all
Mhm.
mental and we're trying to solve a problem and it's all in our head, what tools do we actually need other than knowledge? This is why we went over ignorance and so forth. Yes, we of course we need the physical actions and so forth, which we'll get into, but it starts in the mind, does it not? Because we need to
It
first
does.
tell ourselves that
It
something is
does.
there, that we can do it, that how do we do it, all that. It's all knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay?
No, I agree. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So that's why actually, if we look at the definition of diagnosis, you might be surprised, but it says diagnosis. So gnosis means knowledge. That's where they get the
Oh.
word Gnostics. People who say like the
Yeah,
Gnostics, the
yeah,
elders,
yeah.
the wisdom. It means knowledge. So these are the people who had the knowledge, and dia, which means through or by way of. Think like diaphragm, right, for our I think our
Oh.
stomach and all that. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
through by way of knowledge. So you can see as diagnosis, if we want to make a diagnosis, we must have knowledge. Imagine a doctor trying to treat somebody, right? If they don't have knowledge of how the body works, or how the drug affects somebody, or how the problem manifested and why it did, right? Going back to the question of why,
Hmm.
if they don't have the knowledge of that, can they really help the person?
No. No, because if they don't have the tools, no. If they don't have the knowledge, no.
Okay.
They're just gonna second. They're just gonna, unless they have really good intuition and they can really trust their ability to just come up with something on the spot because they just think it's gonna be the best option, um, or take an educated guess.
Hmm. Okay. So that may go tie back to what our previous distinction was between, you know, the deterministic component and the randomness. Randomness we determined was free will, and deterministic we determined as like the natural law component. So our
Yeah.
actions aligned with what we know. So there's either or. If we just follow our free will, then we're not going to follow the knowledge. But if we follow the knowledge, then now we're aligned because we're
Yeah.
using our free will with the knowledge.
And we want alignment, we want balance, we want synchronicity, we want
Hmm.
high vibrations, all
Okay.
things.
So now we've recognized that knowledge is really an important source, would you say, for this problem solving? It's
Yes.
knowledge within itself to know what problem solving is it not?
Yes.
So,
You must know what knowledge is about and have the
well,
knowledge
think
behind
about it,
knowledge to understand what knowledge is about. Yeah.
right? Think a scientist, right, who has to do experiments by the day. They follow what is called the scientific method, right?
Yes.
So
Yep.
they're following a form of knowledge which they know is going to help them achieve something. And they know it works, which is why they do it. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it, right?
Right.
So that is just an example in everyday life where someone is going to use problem solving, and the scientific method is within itself sort of problem solving. There's even something called the trivium, in case people are interested, which is a problem solving way. It says input, output. It's like that type of thing, right? Input, output. What you put in, you get out. And we're going to
No.
go more into this. So, as you see here on the slide, it says main steps to problem solving, right? So we recognize the problem, we recognize that the symptoms are merely effects of the causes. So we wanted to diagnose the cause of the problem, and now through the knowledge acquired via accurate diagnosis, we can take the required action necessary to rectify the causal factors which led to the manifestation of the problem. Now, do you know what rectify means?
Destroy?
It's okay if you don't. So yeah, it basically means to get rid of, right? So to get rid of the causal factors which led to the problem. If it's a problem, we probably want to get rid of what caused the problem,
Okay.
right? Right?
Yep.
Or yeah, like let's say there's a virus in the body, right? It's a problem. We want to get rid of it, so we have to treat it as a diagnosis, and thus rectify that cause, with the knowledge that yes, the virus is there, and this is how we can fix it. So we do this
Yes.
on day to day life, whether we recognize it or not, just as we do with open mindedness and closed mindedness, just as we do with our everyday knowledge as power that we previously established with the pyramid system, and asking the question why, trying to question all of this. It's all quite important that we at least question the world around us. And so
Absolutely.
this all is an effort for what though? What are we trying to achieve through questioning our world, right? And what are we trying to find by going to the deeps of the depths of what is problem solving? What is knowledge? What does this help us grasp? Would you say?
Truth. Um, the getting back to nature, finding the healing and the benefits of
Hmm.
the body and the oh my god, synchronations. What's the word of the
Synchronicity?
universe? I'm sorry.
Synchronicity? You were trying to say?
Yes,
Yeah.
synchronicity. Yeah, of the universe and how everything is all connected. Everything has a balance. Everything has a purpose.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
And so that means that there's always an effect to a cause. There's always a cause to an effect.
Yes.
And if we don't understand that, then that's probably why we might just nudge things to the side because we feel like we can't understand it. So we just let it go sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where fear or self-confidence or the lack of tools step in.
So perhaps we can understand the truth after all. We just need to have the right knowledge and find the right, and we have to problem solve correctly and get our hands on that knowledge through our awareness, right? Our
Yeah.
ability to perceive everything around us. So there is a truth, and we just need to grasp it and put it into digestible forms for people to understand and um, base that truth in our actions so that our actions can align with the truth perhaps. Yeah,
Mhm.
just getting some
Yeah.
thoughts out there. So it's funny you
Yeah.
mentioned truth because again that is also, I guess you can say, the correct answer. But here we can try to define truth, so since you mentioned it, and it says truth is objective, right? We've been making this distinction previously, not just between right and wrong, but between every cause and effect in the universe. If everything has a cause and effect, then it's all objective. I can't believe that something's not going to happen if I jump off a cliff. You know, there's an inevitable cause that's going to happen to me. I just need to understand what that is, so that way I know not to do it. Otherwise, if I believe that I'm not going to get hurt, I might jump off the cliff. Is that good for me to do? No.
Right.
For my health, speaking. And so, would you agree with the statement that says truth is objective based on what we know?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because knowledge is power, like you said.
Okay. But what does that have to do with knowledge being power?
Um,
Knowledge of what? Because like we established before, it could be good or it could be
Good and
bad,
bad.
right? So
Knowledge of the truth,
maybe the
I
truth
guess.
is both the good and bad,
Yeah.
knowing both.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because what
Knowing both.
if we don't
Learning
know? Yeah.
learning both ends of the spectrum,
Hmm.
always.
Right.
Learning both sides of the card, all sides of the die.
Right. So when you hear me say, right, when something's in alignment with natural law, does that mean I'm discounting wrong? No, because natural law is basing all our actions. So technically, natural law constitutes both good and bad. It
Yes.
doesn't favor either or. We decide what we put into the world, and if it's actually good or bad, we have to see based on our understanding of truth.
Yeah.
So this might be very mind twisting, right? Because a lot of people in today's day and age feel like truth is completely subjective, that they can just whatever they perceive it as is whatever it is. They
Yes.
think that morality is also subjective. Whatever they think is right or wrong is it's up to
Yeah.
them. So they can make the excuse. They'll make the excuse on themselves and say, "Well, I can commit violence here. It's not a big deal. Nobody's going to catch me. Oh, it's perfectly fine. I'll just commit violence." But they have no understanding that that is inherently wrong. And most
Correct.
people would agree it's inherently wrong, but because there's such less of a grounding, a lot of the modern generation, newer generations might raise up and think it's actually right, and maybe they weren't raised um, about morals. Maybe they
Yeah.
don't
I
have
mean,
that part of the brain.
broken families. That's where the my broken families
Yeah.
thing came in.
Do you
Yeah.
think and do you find it coincidental that more of the religious side of the brain, religions tend to teach about morals, and they tend to keep families closer together sometimes, right? Not always.
Sometimes, yeah. Not
Um,
always, but yeah, sometimes. I think that's their. I think that's the objective and the goal, and we hope that that's what the outcome is. Yeah.
hmm. So
It's
we're
togetherness.
mentioning a lot of topics, yeah, and this is what we're all gonna get into. So when we recognize a problem or succeed in treating the problem, do we find the truth to a situation?
You're gonna have to run that by me one more time, Chief.
It's
What?
okay. When we recognize a problem or succeed in treating the problem, do we find the truth to a situation?
Yes. Whether the truth is good or bad, I think you find some type of answer, some type of an aha moment, some type of uh,
Here, so let's actually define truth then, and then we'll go back to that. So
Okay.
it means that it's not based on the perception of human beings, truth. Which perception, it says, is capable of wavering, which means that it's not fully aligned with the truth. Our perception, the way we view the world, it's not going to be exactly the way truth is, right? Can I speak for truth? Can I speak for God? Can I speak for nature?
You have you deserve to have any voice that you wish to speak out. I believe.
Okay. But I'm
Yeah, no,
saying, yeah, I can't represent the truth, right? I can't be the
I think you
truth,
can. I think you can
but not
because
fully, right?
not fully, but up to. I mean, then why are you doing this whole movement? You're being a movement because you believe in the truth and you want to educate and
Hmm.
inspire people to follow and have a ripple effect of the same knowledge and education.
So perhaps it's helping people's perceptions then align to the truth. Because if our perceptions are not fully the truth, they're not. It's not the truth itself. Maybe we have to align our perceptions to the truth. Because if our,
Yeah.
yeah, our perceptions are wavering. Think of a wave, right? Here, let's look at
Mm-hmm.
this slide here, right? We have the waves of perception,
Yeah.
and we have the line of truth. We have to try to align our actions to the truth, and the more we intercept with that line, the more we are getting closer to the truth.
So wait, which one? The truth is what? The white line?
Yes.
And then the perception is the blue, green, and red?
Yes. And so it's, think of this also like frequency,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
like
And it's
some people say
and
like,
the
yeah,
more stable it gets, the more flatline. Well, you want flatline, but the more stable it becomes, and the more aligned, and the more yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I understand that.
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we
That's
want
good.
to align the two. This is why I'm trying to make a distinction between perception and truth. Because it's saying here that perception is capable of wavering, but truth is like stagnant because it's objective, right?
Okay.
So this is why human beings might fall to the belief that everything is just belief and that there is no such thing as an objective truth, because human beings have this tendency, and they can't be fully aligned with the truth. They can only do their best. See what I mean? Like, you can't be a
Yeah.
perfect moral person, can you? You can try, but you can't
Try.
be perfect.
Yes, correct.
So but the truth is simply that which is. It's very difficult to try to describe truth. You know, you can ask somebody. I could ask you, and I'm sure you'd probably go into a whole rant about it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what did you
Yeah.
think truth was? Like, what? How did you perceive truth before I showed you this slide?
Um.
If I asked you just like 5 minutes ago before showing you any of this, what would
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have
yeah.
said?
I would say hidden knowledge that is either meant for the good or the evil. And truth can hurt, truth can enlighten you, truth will always set you free, whether it's good or bad. It enlightens you, and at the end of the day, like I said, whether it's good or bad, you're still awakening from it. You're still learning from it.
It doesn't have to
So
be
it's an
hidden, does it? I mean, it might not be hidden. If truth is everywhere and all around us, it's not technically hidden, is it?
no.
Is truth all around us everywhere? I mean, because we can find truth in everything, right? We acknowledged
I
before.
I think it's both hidden and right in our eyes and everywhere. I think it's truth is all perspectives in that sense.
Okay, so sort of just to relate this back to the question, because I know you might be a little confused. When we recognize a problem or succeed in treating the problem, do we find the truth to a situation? Um, the answer to that is yes, and that's because, let's say I'm recognizing a problem. Now I'm finding the truth to the situation. Like, let's say there's a situation happening, something's happening, and I find that's the problem. Well, if that is objectively the problem, then truthfully, it's the problem because it's objective. It's the actual problem. Now,
Okay.
maybe I'm not recognizing the right problem, then maybe it's not so truthful. But if I'm actually recognizing the right problem that needs to be addressed, then it's truthful. It's objective to what needs to be solved. So, do you see how hard it is to try to pinpoint and say, yeah, this is the problem as
Yeah.
human beings? Yeah.
It's difficult. Yeah.
So it's a human being thing that we have perceptions, and we can't fully align ourselves to the truth, fully diagnose something 100% correctly. A doctor can't know 100% what to do with somebody's body, but they can try their best to try to heal that person by all means necessary.
Right.
And so that's where also the part of the question says succeed in treating the problem. Well, if I'm succeeding in treating the problem, I know it works. So I know there's some level of truth there. Some truth in a good light, that is, right? Because truth, like I said, it could be good or bad objectively. There's truth it's in everything. I could see something bad. If it's objectively bad, then that's the truth to the situation. I just use that word truth to the situation to sort of pinpoint, right? It's the truth to the situation is that you are on webcam with me. The truth to the situation is that I'm asking you questions. That's what I mean when I say truth. So it can constitute both the good and the bad. Now, when we align our perceptions to the truth, we are understanding truth more. We are perhaps acting more in alignment with truth. Maybe you want to say, do you like using that line analogy, or not so much?
The one about speaking your truth about, like using your voice to promote. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm talking about perception. Aligning our perception to the truth, like it shows on this slide.
Yeah.
Is this a good representation of it? Because there's different ways you can put it. The
No,
top
I think
line is
yeah.
meant to represent that you are more aligned with the truth because you are intercepting it more. See? There's
Oh,
one,
really?
two,
The
three,
first one?
four, five. Yes, and this one is not intercepting with the truth so much, so it's actually,
Don't you want to become the line?
well, you can't.
No, but okay, if the truth is a flat line, right? That's what you're saying. The white is
Mm-hmm.
a flat line.
Yes.
So wouldn't you want your wavelength to match that white line? So you want it to be as flat as possible?
Well, in this scenario, we're looking at this curve being our perception, right? So let's say I'm starting here, and there's a truth to the situation. Um, yeah, maybe this is a bit more analytical for you,
Yeah.
but
And
like
I thought the red was more
here I found the
the
truth, and then look, I'm wavering again. Oh, I found the truth, wavering. Found the truth again, wavering. Found the truth here. Waiting, waiting, waiting. Oh, found the truth. Oh, now I'm wavering all this time. Oh, found the truth.
I think it can be taken in many different ways.
Yeah.
This graph, honestly, because
Yes.
at first thought I thought red was more closer to the truth, and blue is all over the place. Like
Mm.
you're very scatterbrained. You're very,
Mm-hmm.
like you're very back and forth.
Now the
Where red
reason,
is becoming more flatter, which means you're coming more aligned
yeah,
or aligned with
right.
everything.
Well, actually, the blue one also actually represents that. It depends on how you see it. If you look at a frequency, the higher the frequency, usually it just
That
you can't
too.
hear it anymore
Yeah.
when it comes to sound. But also, you might notice when you talk to people when they say you're in a low frequency vibration, you're in a high
Yes.
frequency. They also correlate that to how aware you are, how often you understand the truth. So that's
Right.
why he
Like I
uses that
said, I think
example.
no, and I think that's a great. I mean, this it's a great representation. I just think it can be taken different ways.
Okay.
Because I at first,
Yeah, we don't have to use the graph, and I think that should be something people should know is that we can understand this knowledge without having to use one set thing. Like I said, you can word
yes.
things differently. So, what makes our perception different from truth? I want to hear what you have to say about that.
What makes our perception different from truth?
Yeah. Now, do you know what perception means? Right, like it's just how we
Yeah,
perceive the world, and
yeah. Um, can you reword the question because that it's throwing me off.
okay.
Like,
How? What makes our opinion different from a fact? Based on the knowledge that we learn. Um,
education,
okay.
research,
So knowledge.
um, intuition, knowledge. Yeah, all
Okay.
within that bracket. Yeah,
Okay. And how can it align and should it align our perception with truth? I
I
mean,
think everything's a balance and alignment. Yeah,
okay. So everything should align in nature. Everything should align with what? With truth.
I think you can find the alignment and find the balance in it.
Okay.
Um, and eventually may give you the best possible best
Yeah.
scenario answer
Now,
question
yeah,
answer.
I might be confusing too, because like I said, when I
Yeah.
said truth could be good or bad, um, like most people, when people say the word truth, they think of it immediately as a good thing, right? Because it's truthful. Um, it can be something that is
It could
truthfully
be
bad.
deceiving.
It could be,
Truth can be deceiving,
well, it might not be the truth then,
right?
right? If it's deceiving and it's not the truth.
But think of it as a poison apple. The truth behind it, yes, it looks very delicious. It looks like a brand new, granny's or whatever red apple, and it looks great because your deception, your knowledge of this is like, oh, this looks like a great apple. You take a bite into it, and it's poison. Truth behold, it's your deception of. Does that make
Perhaps it's
sense?
because you lacked knowledge that it was a poison apple.
Well, now if it looks like it's good,
So it's negative knowledge, as we previously established. Remember, in so like 2 episodes ago, we talked about negative knowledge and compared that to more
yeah,
of the positive knowledge, where negative knowledge might be deceitful. So there's ignorance. We could be ignorant of the problem, but we could also think that something is a solution when it's not. So perhaps we think the apple is not, um, poisonous. We convinced ourselves that it isn't, and thus it's negative knowledge. Somebody told you it isn't poisonous, but it's not actually truthful. Do you see what I mean?
yeah,
If
but
it,
what if you have two apples next to each other? They both look exactly the same, but one's poison and one's not.
well, it's about having the knowledge of which one's poisonous and which one isn't.
You don't know. You don't know.
Okay, so then you can't be ignorant, right? Because the information is not present. So you're
Yeah,
nascent, which
it's,
we
it's it's the source behind those apples that made the apples poison.
okay. Well, we're looking at this as in like the receiver, right? So you are the
Right.
receiver. You are the one looking at the apple. If you don't know either one is poisonous, then you don't know. There's nothing you can do to fix the problem. What we're looking at here when it comes to problem solving is yes, there is a problem and you recognize it. You should not ignore it. So if the solution's not present, then there's nothing I can complain about. If the problem's not present, there's nothing I can complain about. You see what I mean? But
Until it hits you smack in the face and bam, it's a poison apple and you die.
but the problem
You know
is
what I
that
mean?
things are present, right? So it's present. If there's a problem present, it's our responsibility to recognize that it is and that we need to take action on it. So we must recognize the truth to the situation, which is that yes, there's a poisonous apple, and we should probably be aware of what that is and not be ignorant of it because somebody told us that yeah, there is. Maybe there is. And maybe we do have intuitive knowledge that yeah, they're probably one of them is poisonous.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So we shouldn't be ignorant of that. And truthfully, there could be truth in that. There might not be truth in it. There might both the apples could be fine, but there could be truth in that statement that there is poison in one of them. We have to find out, and so we have to find out through what? How do we
Knowledge.
find out that yeah, truth? How do we find out that something's a truth? It's through knowledge. We don't
Yes.
know something's actually truthful until we know it's truthful. No, it's truthful.
No knowledge.
So when
Yeah.
someone says, I know the truth, do you really know the truth? Or are you just saying you know the truth? You see what I mean?
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very
So
interesting.
I'll word this a little differently this time. Should we want to know more of the truth in order to act in alignment with it? Because if we have the knowledge that something is bad and something is good, objectively for what it is, both truthfully as they are, because it's objective, should we want to know more of the truth in order to act in alignment with it?
Question everything. And yes to that question. I think you deserve the right for the truth. You
We can
deserve the
question everything, but eventually we have to come to some conclusion, right? Because
yes.
again,
But I feel like
teachability, we don't want to question everything and not have any answers to anything.
right. But also, I mean, you deserve the truth because if it's a lie, it's gonna, you know, that I mean that hurts, right?
So, yeah. we can distinguish truth and lie. And a lie is what? Something that usually is bad that we associate with. And why is it usually bad? Because it results in bad things, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
somebody is deceiving us because they have knowledge of something and they're telling you otherwise.
Yeah.
That's what a lie is. So perhaps it's a
Right.
like maybe even the pyramid system that we saw, with some people having the knowledge and telling everybody below them that, you know, that's not where the problem is. Don't look at us. Don't question authority. This
Right.
is not where the problem is. Look
Yeah.
elsewhere.
You're the problem.
So
Yeah.
they're
Exactly.
lying to them and saying, well, no, the problem is this. The problem is this. The problem is that. What if the problem is not actually that? It's a lie. So the truth to the situation is that's not the problem. And the only way we know that is if we know, if we actually seek to know, if we have knowledge of that.
Yes.
So we should want to know more of the truth to our world and everything around us. Otherwise, like, I don't know what to do, right? If I don't know what to do unless I have some sort of knowledge of what to do. That's the truth of the
Right.
situation. I know that I have to use my legs to stand up. So truthfully saying, that's the truth. I have to use legs to stand up. So although it sounds ridiculously simple and it may have made you think a little like more complex, doesn't it sound much easier now that we kind of went over it?
It seems more simple. Yeah.
Okay.
And more comprehensible. Yeah.
So the
No,
difference
absolutely.
between truth and perception is that perception can lie to us. And but
Yes.
perception needs to try to align to the truth. Needs to get away from the lies, needs to find the knowledge. Needs to find the
Okay.
right knowledge. And so
Yeah.
it's our job to try to find what that is and how do we get it. So how does this relate to ignorance in the teachability bell curve? And we sort of already went over this, but how does truth, how does this all relate? Truth, perception. How does this relate to ignorance and that bell curve we went over? I could show you again if you want.
I don't know. I'm really struggling with that one. How does it relate to ignorance?
So when we're ignoring something, we are saying it's not there. I don't need to solve it. I don't. It's not a problem,
Or it could
even though
be
it
like,
is.
I don't, it could be you don't care. You don't think that's worth your energy, worth your time. Is that like kind of along what you're thinking?
Um, well, yeah. That's ignorance though, because right there. I mean, if they know it's a problem and they are just ignoring it, or it could be a problem and they're ignoring it, then that's ignorance. What I'm saying is, like I said, there's negative knowledge and there's ignorance. So there's something that is going to deceive us, and there's something that we're just going to ignore. They're both bad. Well, because if we're ignoring something that is a problem, then we should probably not do that because we should fix the problem, don't you think?
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
we should also not deceive ourselves and tell us that it's something else or that it's not the problem. It's just as bad as ignorance, isn't it?
So ignore or take action.
So ignore or take action, you said?
Yes.
Okay. And
Right? 'Cause you literally just said that. Either you ignore the problem that's at hand or you take action at the problem at hand.
yeah, but you want to try to find the right sources of information because we don't want negative knowledge either. Something that will
Right.
deceive us and tell us that something that isn't the truth. So that's where it comes in. The teachability bell curve, the difference between having an open mind and having a closed mind. We want to know the truth. So the only way we can do that is if we are in the best position to learn, which is having it not too much of an open mind, not too much of a closed mind.
It's a closed mind. Yes. Have an equal medium balance.
Okay. But that's
Oh,
because we have perception.
yes.
That's what's determining this teachability. The whole reason why that bell curve exists is because we have perception. Otherwise, I wouldn't have to go over it. Perception is able to turn into something bad, right? And perception is able to turn into something good. And what I mean by that is perception can believe in something bad and it could know something that's good. It can also know something that's bad. or it could also believe something that's good. But that's all our perception. So all the points that we made previously about ignorance and knowledge, it all runs by our perception. And our perception, should that get in the way of our truth, of the truth to the world?
No.
Because we did establish before that there's belief systems that people put on themselves, right? That block them from knowledge. So,
Mm-hmm.
thus, their perceptions, their beliefs, could get in the way of the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. And it would be perception's job to, instead of getting in the way of truth, try to align with truth.
I mean, I know I'm not
Work with
talking,
it.
but I know I'm not elaborating. It's all going in. It's just, it's
So,
a lot.
instead of
But,
going against the body, work with the body.
right.
So, that is perception. Instead
Yes.
of instead of going against truth by perceiving it as whatever I want it to be, it doesn't matter, no, I don't care. I'm instead
Yeah.
saying I'm going to know what's happening and I'm going to find out the truth. So this is the difference between a truth seeker and somebody who doesn't care about the truth at all. It's somebody who uses their perception in the right way. Right? Knowledge is power.
Yes.
What are they going to use their knowledge for, good or bad?
Good or bad. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, but I want to hear this from you now. Okay. So I don't want to speak anymore. I want to hear what you have to say. I want you to understand this.
No, I mean, because I mean, I just feel like we're just being repetitive at this point. We're repeating a lot. But I mean, it's all, it, at the end of the day, have an opened slash closed mind. Your perspectives are what you believe and your morals against a certain topic and what
But your
you,
morals, are they? Should they be all about belief? If they're objective, if it's objectively true that violence is bad, I can believe all I want that it isn't bad. So I shouldn't probably have that belief then, right? Because it's going to result in bad behavior.
yeah, yeah.
So we can't just say anybody just believe what you want to believe, question everything. There comes a time where we do have to say this is what the truth is. This is where we draw the line. You see what I mean? Because
Yeah, no, of
otherwise, then
course.
we're not on the teachability bell curve. We're not in the middle. Because we're just open to everything
All open.
and
Yeah.
not critical of anything. We have to be critical of something. And when are we critical of something? When we know it's probably not true. When we
Mm.
know that it has to be
When you're
questioned.
questioning things, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's questioned why. Why do we question things?
Because you're uncertain.
Exactly. Like we talked. This was a question I asked you last episode too. It's like, why do we question things? It's because we want to know more about what's going on. We seek knowledge. So the point of this also is it relates to man trying to be nature instead of working with nature. If perception is truth, then man is truth. Man is God. But if perception works with truth, works with nature, then it isn't God, it isn't nature itself. It's recognizing his place. It's recognizing that you have a place in the world, and your place is
And
not
the
to is
purpose.
not better than anyone else. You're not special.
Right.
You're just a
Right.
fellow human being. And do you see what I'm getting with that?
Yeah, and you have a
Perception doesn't run
purpose.
over truth.
And you have a purpose, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, purpose is a different subject too, but yeah. I mean, so perception and truth. I just wanted to make that distinction. And here, if this helps you any more, we can try to go over this quote here, if it gives you a bit more perspective.
Okay.
It says, quote, I've come to realize that the biggest problem anywhere in the world is that people's perceptions of reality are compulsively filtered through the screening mesh of what they want and do not want to be true.
Mm.
So what he's saying here is that people put a filter on their perception so they can tell themselves what they want or do not want to be true. They're convincing themselves of truth,
Oh,
what they want to be true and what they don't want to be truth, and they're not actually running it by the truth. Not
yeah. So
necessarily.
It's like all those filters on every social media. You have the filters that censor people against speaking out their truth, or God forbid they talk about
Censorship.
yeah, censorship. Or you have the filters that are on apps, like communication apps. I don't want to name names because I don't want to give them the
Okay.
credit. That enhance things that may not be, they make you look like a certain way that is not you. It's a filter, and it's a deception that I think is not what should be conveyed.
Yeah.
It should be you and you only, and um, be proud and embrace what you have and what you believe in.
Okay. But do we again establish that belief is not everything because belief will deceive us? Belief is not truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So just to establish that, because we can be too open minded and it will come at the cost. So, what I'm saying with that is maybe we do need to have some sort of filter, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You need some filter. But what I'm
Why?
saying is, what do you mean? Like, okay,
Why do we need some sort of filter?
what filter are you referring to?
I'm talking about all the aspects we've been talking about with problem solving and truth. So, why do we want to filter out certain information or filter out
Oh,
certain things? Or what I'm saying is like what the quote says, to what is true and what is not true. That's the filter here.
okay.
Is that a good
But
filter?
is that a good filter?
Yeah, understanding what is
Yeah.
true and what is
What
not
is
true.
true, what's not true? Yeah.
Okay, now let's compare that to what the quote says: what they want and do not want to be true. Why did I say
Well,
want?
what about they? Who's they?
Okay, well, just people, anybody, doesn't matter who it
Okay.
is. This
Okay.
applies to all people, right? So don't forget that. What they want. So if I want something to be true, let's say I'm a fairy princess. Okay, I want that to be true. Does that mean it's actually true?
No,
Okay.
but listen to your heart and make it come true if that's something that you want it to be. Joking. No.
Do you,
Um,
hmm. Do you see why society says that a lot though? Do you see how you're kind of by saying that? Do you see that a lot of people say that on social media? Celebrities, they just think they can be whatever they want. It doesn't
yeah.
matter. There's no objectivity to the situation. Okay.
I don't know how to elaborate on that. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, do you see the difference between, because you agreed, you said we can have a filter between what is true and what is not true.
Okay, filter to I don't okay, this is where I'm like so lost because like filter
Okay, so
what
let's
filter
establish this, right? We filter everything in our life, right? By what we believe.
yes.
But what we
Yes.
believe could be true or not true, right?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so can our beliefs get in the way of the truth? And we established this before, but
The
perception.
blockage, like yeah, the blockage, the perception, the fear, the self-confidence, the tools, the knowledge, the education that's given.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so filters can be useful then because filters include our understanding of the knowledge and what we know to be true and what's not true. It's different from saying what we want, right? So what we know to be true and not true is different from saying what we want to be true and not true. Do you see what I'm getting with that?
Yes. Yes.
There's a
Yes, I do.
difference. What's the difference between saying want and know?
Egotistic, like necessary versus wait, want and what?
What's the difference between want and know? So,
Okay. Want can be like I guess necessary. You think it's necessary to you, where no is like you going with your intuition, you going with what you think is correct or
what you think is
is
correct, isn't that then the same thing as what you think is necessary?
I guess
So you right now you're equating truth to what you think is necessary. But what do we establish truth is? It's objective. It's not based on the perceptions of human beings. It's that which is. So when we tell ourselves, let's say, okay, I'll use your own example, okay, to conclude here.
Okay.
Masks, okay? Somebody's telling themselves it's not true, right? It's not true masks are going to limit my oxygen, okay? Not true.
Well, that's one argument, but yeah. Okay.
Okay, but objectively speaking, in truth, it will, to always some extent, because they're
Yes.
putting it on their face. It's blocking their mouth and nose.
Yes. Yes.
So, as much as they want to believe, that it's not true, it is true that it is blocking their oxygen.
Yeah,
So,
because there's something that I guess you want to say filter, or there's something that's blocking them from realization. I guess that's another big word that we can put in there. Realizing the bigger picture, the underlining meaning, the root cause,
diagnose.
diagnose.
Isn't that the same thing as recognizing, diagnosing in a way? Because we are understanding, we're seeing that there is a problem. It's going back to problem solving. There is a problem, we can fix it.
Yes.
So when we have a filter on something, saying, well, I believe whatever it is, am I really using problem solving? Because I'm not going based on knowledge now, am I? I'm going based on whatever I think it is. Now, that could be based on knowledge, but is it actually, there's a difference between belief and there's a difference between truth. There's a difference between perception and truth. Pretty similar.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at here with the whole mask thing, okay, so in that perception, person's thinking, okay, well, it's not going to restrict my oxygen. They're putting a filter on their way they see the world. They're putting a filter on their mindset.
Oh, well, why didn't you say that in the first place? Because I was,
I've been saying that the whole time. So,
no, but like it was very confusing, and you lost me for like a good 15 solid minutes. I'm going to tell you that right now. I was completely, my brain was all over the place, very scatterbrained. What you said right there, aha moment, that is very true.
okay.
That people are putting a filter over their perception
For
of
what?
stuff,
Of why?
of the truth.
Okay. And why are they doing that?
Um, because they're either afraid or they're panicked, they're fearful, they don't want to know the consequences, they're fear of the consequences, they're not willing to open up to the idea that there's other options.
Okay.
Um,
So they're
everything that
so they run by their beliefs instead then.
what they believe, yeah.
Yeah. So whether or not it's actually true, they're telling themselves what is true based on their filter.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what this quote is trying to say here.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say based on this quote is that yes, there's a filter of what is and what isn't true, because truth is objective. But we shouldn't filter the truth itself with our beliefs, our perceptions. So we should filter the world through truth. We shouldn't filter the world through our beliefs, our
Oh,
perceptions.
okay.
Does everything run by you and me? Everything is just ran by us, right? We run the world. Everything goes by us. We are all that matters in the world. Only what we think is what matters. Is that true?
Is it true that what we believe is true?
Is it true that whatever I think it is the truth?
No.
No,
No,
it's just my
because no.
belief.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so there's a difference between, like I said, filtering the world through the actual truth and filtering the world through our beliefs.
Okay.
Okay. And
Yeah.
that's where we get the idea of solipsism, which, do you know what that is? It means that
Nope.
only we exist, that only one's own mind is sure to exist, that anything outside of it is unsure. There's no such thing as objective truth. There's no such thing as anything about natural law that could be known, anything, because it's all just outside of the human brain. We feel like none of that matters. Like we can't perceive it, we can't understand it as human beings, so why should we bother? That's what solipsism is.
Oh. Hmm. I feel like I've never even really heard of that name too. And I feel like that's weird because you talk about natural law very often. And I'm surprised I've never heard that word come up before. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Now, this is something where talk about ego, it's very centric. Think about it, right? Because if I am looking at the whole world through only how I perceive it, and I'm looking
Mm.
through the whole world based on my beliefs of how everything is and everything's perception and everything's belief, there's no truth. There's no external workings that go outside of me. Only I exist. I only care about myself. I only care about what's going through my perception. My filter is what matters about me, and everybody can have their own filter, blah blah blah. But they're not recognizing that there's a truth, the truth to the situation that we all are under. So they're
Right.
ignoring the fact that their own mind is not the only thing that exists. There is a true there is a truth to the universe, and there is right and wrong, and it's not
Yes.
all just their belief and perception. And why is that?
Because now knowledge is power. Education is key. Open mindedness is also a balance with closed mindedness. Having an open heart.
Is that objective? All those statements, are those truly objective?
I think it's the word objective that's getting to me, and I'm not.
Objective means it's inherent. It's irreplaceable. It's innate.
Well, truth is objective. I guess, yeah, truth is objective. It's innate. It's irreplaceable.
Right. So if you are speaking the truth, then you can say for a fact, based on the knowledge that you have, that what you're saying is truth. It's objective because
Yeah.
truth is objective.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, so when you say knowledge is power, if you know that knowledge is power, then it is truthful because it's based in knowledge. It's not just based on your belief, though. You got to make sure that's something you got to run by, right? Is make sure that you're not just thinking that because you believe it is or because I told you that it is. You got to know that because of what you learned, because of what you understand,
The knowledge that you gained. Yes.
right? And we acknowledged that knowledge is power because of the occult, because of certain
Hidden
people in the
knowledge.
dark,
Yes.
because if I had knowledge of that the key can unlock the door and you didn't, then I can get out and you can stay inside. You're not going to want to leave. Well, you're not going to be able to because you have no knowledge of how to leave the room. And
Right. Because
if
I
I,
don't have the tool. Yeah.
yeah, so that's where knowledge is power, is having certain
Yes.
knowledge that others don't have and then keeping it away from them or lying to them. If I
Hmm.
keep it away from them, now I'm manipulating them, I'm deceiving them. And if I lie to them, I'm giving them negative knowledge, which is knowledge that is wrong, not truthful.
Right. Correct.
Okay, so just trying to wrap up all the points that we've made here, and it's
Yeah.
okay
No,
that
of course.
you feel like you're slow on this one. That's okay because we'll
Yeah.
go more into it as we go on. I said that we will have to repeat points because it's necessary. Like I did all that to also define solipsism, and you never heard of that term before. It's essential that we go over that because if a lot of people are thinking through the terms of their belief and their ideas of how they perceive the world as everything that is truth, and if that's that's just not correct because everything it's not the world doesn't revolve around you. The world doesn't revolve around what one person thinks or around how you perceive the whole world.
Correct.
Right, like because if I walked off a cliff, like I said, there's an inevitable effect to that situation. Whether I believe it or not, that it's true or not, is irrelevant. Nature does not care about my feelings. So let me get that straight. Nature does not care about what I think because what is in nature, it is in nature. It's innate. That's why I say in nature, innate. I always combine those words
Yeah, that's great. Oh, I like that.
because nature is objective in its blueprint. Think of the body, right? Can I reverse how the body works? It's like a God given or nature given blueprint. I can try to mess with it all I want, but it's perfect the way it is. It's perfectly set up in a certain blueprint that if you work against it, the body dies or there's some problem happening in the body. If I give it the wrong drug, something bad happens. If I give it the wrong food, so I have to know what is the right food. What is going
Correct.
to help the blueprint
That's
instead of
gonna.
go against it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
is where we draw the line, and we don't just say, okay, let's just believe whatever and blah blah blah. It's about getting definite and
All,
saying, yeah,
all sides of the spectrum.
all sides of the spectrum, which includes both knowing what is right and wrong to do, and not just putting that up in the air for everybody to just decide for themselves what it is. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
violence is bad, and I think most people can agree to that for the very reason that it is objectively bad. And we're going to get into more of why that is, because some people might be confused about, why is violence objectively bad? Why am I so definite saying that violence is bad? Some people are actually going to question that. And, it's because we live in this world where apparently we have to describe things like that. But look, it happens. So,
Unfortunately, yeah. But
um,
that's why you're here, right? Is to
yeah.
educate.
Is it sad that I have to show people that violence is bad? Is it bad that I have to teach people that nobody has the right to rule over them?
No, because at the end of the day, you're doing what is right for the world. You know,
Yeah, but is
we
it?
need
I'm
world.
saying like to you, is it sad that I have to teach people
Oh,
these
yeah, yeah,
things?
yeah, because people don't have common sense anymore.
Okay, and as we established before, common sense is conscience, and what is conscience? Deciding right from wrong action.
Yes.
Because if I have common sense of what to do, what am I doing? If I have common sense of something, what does that mean?
Um, that you're just going with your gut, you're going with your intuition, whether it's good or bad. It's your intuition. It's what you think is correct.
No, it's what you know is correct. Common sense.
Oh, yeah, what you know.
It's the exact opposite. So I'm trying to catch you on your own words because you keep reverting back to this idea that everything is belief. And I'm telling you that the world conditioned you to think as such.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, geez, am I one of them?
Well, it
No,
did the same
no,
thing for me too.
but no, I, I, I will admit, yeah, if we have episode, what is this, episode 3, episode 4? If you ask me,
three.
uh, yeah, episode 4. If you ask me, the verbiage of what I use today, I'm probably gonna keep it the same verbiage because it takes time. It does. It takes
That's
time. All
fine.
this is marinating.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. So yeah, I like to try to make that distinction because, like I said, you can't believe that something's not going to happen to you jumping off a cliff. And so it's all our duty to try to define what is truth, and it's not only up to me, and nobody can know it fully, and nobody can speak fully on behalf of truth. I can do my best, but I shouldn't try to. I shouldn't even. What I'm saying is, nobody should look up to me as saying like I am the beacon of truth. The truth is the truth. I'm not the truth. Don't look up to me. Look at the truth. Don't look at what I'm saying. Look at what the truth to the situation is.
Can't you be a mentor for some
I
people?
can guide them in the right direction toward the truth, but only the truth can tell them what the truth is. See what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
They have to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
aware of it and experience it for them to fully understand it. And it's just not. I'm just saying, like, don't rely on my word of it. You have to understand it through your own knowledge of the subject. Um,
Of course.
so that's why I gave you examples. If you want more examples of the difference between belief and truth, I can give that to you. But do you understand now everything that we talked about?
I have a clear understanding now. It's more of kind of just getting the different words and their meanings, like your beliefs versus the truth versus this.
Yeah.
I
And
think
thank
that's
you,
gonna get
Trajan, for joining us. I appreciate that. Yeah. So what is
right.
truthful? What is untruthful? What is right? What is wrong? What is all right? The polarities, right? Yin and yang, may you say?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and like I said, they're both within natural law, both right and wrong. When I say something's in alignment with natural law, just so you know, I'm usually referring to it's working with nature, which means it's good. I'm giving it a
Yeah, of
positive connotation. But
course.
when I
Okay.
say something's against natural law, it's still within natural law. It's just it's just not understanding natural law often. It's actually just not having the very knowledge of natural law. it usually is. When I say something's not in alignment with natural law, I'm usually referring to the fact that it's just very hard to explain, by the way. Um,
Yeah. No,
but I'm like usually somebody has a certain belief of something, and I will say that's
yeah.
not in alignment with natural law, and that's because they don't have the knowledge of natural law. So obviously, if you have alignment with natural law, it's because you know natural law, and you don't have to say natural law to know natural law.
No,
Very, very,
it's
yeah,
complex. It's very complex. But
mm-hmm.
it's simple. It's simple, yet it's complex. It
Yes.
should be easy to comprehend, but because of the way that we have just been, taught our whole lives, we kind of it's not like we're like switching gears, more like it's more like we're just enhancing what we're learning. We're not flipping a switch and changing our ideology. It's more of enhancing it and kind of just sprinkling more information, sprinkling more knowledge, hello knowledge, into our dictionary of or encyclopedia of life, you know.
So yeah, maybe you'll see it as we're adding knowledge to our perception, and so our perception is more holistic. We have a bigger picture, right? We have a bigger
Mm-hmm.
picture to how we see the world. It's bigger. We see a bigger reality. Our reality is open. We have an open mind, an open reality. We see things more holistically. Thus, because we understand the whole of the universe, we're able to understand the individual within that whole, which is ourselves. So, by understanding ourselves, we can understand the world, and by understanding the world, we can help understand more about ourselves. This is something
Yeah.
called macrocosmic and microcosmic. So, microcosmic is the small, macro is the big.
Yeah.
So, when many folks think a certain way, let's say I'm one person who knows about natural law and uses this certain term, natural law. Now you start using it. Now other folks start using it. It becomes more macro. It becomes bigger.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
So
Almost like a ripple effect
yeah,
also because you're just yeah.
well, yeah. So right now, like I'm an individual micro, like a micro unit. You're a micro unit, an individual, right? And then the
Yeah.
collective is the macrocosm. It's the macro. Think of like
Okay.
micronutrient and macronutrient. Macro
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
most important nutrient. Well, micro, they're both important, right? But macro is just the ones you need more of. It's because macro means more, micro means less.
But you kind of need the micro because that's essential because that's where you
Yes,
start off and
they're
that's where
both
the
essential.
everything comes in. Yes.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is what happens in society will reflect onto our individual self, and what happens with ourselves will reflect onto society. So what we change within our own lives will affect the society we live in, especially if we all do it.
Yeah. Of
All right.
course.
So I'll wrap it up there. I just wanted to add a bit more definition to that, but of
Yeah.
course, maybe I might have just made it even more confusing for you.
No, no. I mean, it may like look like I'm lost, but it's I'm listening. I'm deep listening, and I'm a listener unless I am truly confident on a topic, then I'm not going to say it. Like I keep quiet because it's tough for me to elaborate if I'm not
That's fine. I can
confident.
tell. I can tell. It's fine. And that's why I tried rewording things and giving examples. So next time
Yeah,
somebody asks you, what is the truth? Um, what are you gonna say?
I'm going to say it's not what you believe it is, it's what you gained through your knowledge and education,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't revolve around you, and don't be arrogant against what you don't think what's true, but also consider other options in your intuition and perception
Okay.
in a way. But also knowledge is power again, and truth, whether it's good or bad, of course, will always set you free.
Okay. Yeah, and I just want to remind you, you don't have to like say talking points. Like when I say knowledge is power, I say that so often because it's a quote, a popular quote. But
Yeah, that
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we don't want to follow the talking points. Just as a reminder to anybody who's listening, because I don't want to fall to those either. Because then it's like now I'm just repeating a script, and a lot of people in society are just following talking points or whatever someone is told just repetitively. So I actually want people to have an understanding of the subject and not just say talking points. And we all do it, so I'm not talking about you. I'm saying anybody who's listening. Actually know why knowledge is power. Understand, why ignorance is bliss. I think some people say, certain things like that. Why there's nothing new under the sun, right? That's another quote, which
Yeah.
means that everything that happens is is not
Happens.
really all that old. That people think there's new things that have happened, but we're still just repeating history,
Right.
and everything is, like I said, a reflection. So we're going to go over more about that as time moves on and go a little bit deeper into solipsism since you've never heard of it. So thank you, Crystal,
Yeah.
for hanging out. And
Oh,
is there
and I
anything
want
else you want to go over?
no, I just want to thank you for having the patience
No, it's
and
fine.
having um the courage to keep going because this is so needed in our day and age. I think it's very important to keep expanding the mind and expanding what you know and really just dig deep, and eventually everything is hopefully going to make full circle, at
Mm-hmm.
least maybe take something from something, whether it's a simple statement or the most complex monologue that Cory has said today. Hopefully you guys are enlightened a little bit today, a little brighter than the previous episode, and that
Yes.
I feel like that's like the end goal, is to oh, kind of just make it a little bit, easier to digest. Think of digestion. You wouldn't want to eat something that is undigested. You want to eat something that is easy and it's going to benefit your body. And so this knowledge, yes, it's very complex, but Cory making it into a very simple way, because I swear to God, I need baby talk for this type of stuff. And so he makes it very easy for me to comprehend. I mean, yes, it's very complex. Yes, there are still questions that I have, but I feel like as we go on, those questions are going to be answered and they're going to be very informative. And I hope that you guys take something from this and that you share this with your friends and family. And
Yes.
um,
Everything will make a circle. That is something important to note. That although I'm drilling in certain ideas that are very selective right now, everything does connect to one another.
yeah, exactly. And I try, because I know Cory's doing this on his end, on my end, on my streams. I try to like sprinkle in little pieces of truth that may be a little controversial for the common folk. But and it's surprising. I swear I just attract these people because I think it's a sign from the universe that when you are talking to someone that it just clicks. And so unless these people just stay quiet, but so far, people who are in my chat, they are sometimes and almost always on the same pace as me, and they always agree with nature is so important and you need to incorporate it into everything. Really do your research. Knowledge is the powerful thing that you can literally gain everything from, and just listen to your gut and your intuition and question pretty much everything, but also take in consideration that you should have an open heart, but have some, you know
Grounding.
grounding, yeah, grounding. No, that's exactly what the word is, grounding to that. So it's very interesting, and I think it's very powerful. And I thank you guys for even just involving me, because I can go off like right now. I'm going on the rant. I'm going off, but I think it's very important. You know, that if someone just takes one thing out of this, that means that you made a difference, and it's very powerful. And I want to congratulate you and your team and everyone behind the scenes of this whole entire movement. You guys are doing great work, and keep it up, because
Well, thank you, but like I said, it's everybody.
no,
And
of course,
yeah,
yeah. I try to do my part in a way that is not going to like give me so much hate, because yes, I'm live. I only have so much power to ban so many people if they disrespect me. You know what I mean? And I don't want it to be a negative environment for people. I want people to come on my stream, and I don't mean to make this about me, but I want people to come to my stream to feel in a really nice positive environment. Whether they have a bad day, I want them to come to me with a smile and literally just, almost like a distraction from the world, because we live in such panic, we live in such craziness nowadays, that I want them to find peace. You know what I mean? And so I think this aligns with everything that Cory's doing, is because all we want to do at the end of the day is just hopefully change people's lives and kind of just make them smile or enlighten them a little bit more. So, okay, I'm done with my rant.
No, that's good. Thank you.
I'm
I
sorry.
appreciate it. And notice we go a little
Yeah,
bit more over time just to sort of explain topics that have to
yeah,
be
I'm
explained.
so sorry. Oh my God,
No,
40 minutes overtime.
no, that's perfectly fine. I don't mind that because, like I said, some things need longer explanations, and there really isn't a set time frame. I'm willing to do that because you're my sister, and like I said, there's more dedicated episodes, so it's not a big deal. I want to like to try to
Appreciate that.
dedicate certain episodes to certain topics. So obviously, this episode was dedicated toward truth and
Truth.
perception. And that's why it is a pretty heavy topic. I mean, like if you asked anybody what truth is, it's they're going to be all over the place. I'm sure they're going to be mentioning, I don't know, politics, a whole bunch of stuff that might not even have anything to do with the truth, but they think it has some value, and that's why they talk about it in the lens of truth.
Yeah.
Because everything does have a truth to it. So everything in nature can teach us something. We just need to know what that is. And so that's why I say the truth can be good or bad, and we can use it. That's where it really comes into fruition. Is again, we're looking at our actions. Can we use truth to align our actions to truth? So can we use truth and work with truth and work with truth? All this stuff um, to connect with one another. But if you understand it, it's simply aligning your actions to what is moral and immoral, which we're going to keep getting into as we move on. Like I said, we're going to get more into that as we move
Yeah.
on in the more episodes as we talk more about what natural law actually is, even by its own definition. So thank you, Crystal.
Thank you. I appreciate you
Take
and
care.
everyone who's watching. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye. Wave.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, sorry.
Bye.
Bye.